It happens far too often. More than 100 times per year, a person is killed by a commuter train in our area. And the last person to see them alive is the motormen and women. Here's Arthur Chien.
You may remember Edgar Rivera, pushed onto the tracks of an oncoming train by a mentally ill man. Rivera lost both legs. Or you may remember Kendra Webdell. The aspiring screenwriter was also pushed by a deranged man. She did not survive. Joan Olazola was feeling dizzy when she passed out on a subway platform. Falling onto the tracks, she died, as did 14-year-old Eric Alvarez when he climbed up between two subway cars while they were moving. His friends dared him to do it. There is one thing you do not know about any of these events, partly because we almost never mention it. The last person to see the victim alive is usually the train operator.
April 4th, 1992, I was the 445E out of World Trade.
Do you remember the date?
Yeah, it was February 22nd of 2009.
Train operators like Trina Hayes and George Stamp live with a demon few of us can imagine, one they can never shake. They've killed people and have had to pretend it was all okay. For train operator Hayes, it was just another day at the helm when suddenly she saw a man standing before her on the tracks.
I heard him. As the train got closer, I heard him, and he was just saying, "Oh God, please no, please," and, you know, waving his hands. And as I came closer to him, he had blood coming down his face.
Police believe that man was being chased when he ended up in front of Trina, who was going about 30 miles an hour. She slammed on the brakes of her 350-ton train. It was too late.
So I felt the impact, I heard the sounds, and it was terrible. It was terrible just to see that man begging for his life, and there was nothing that I could do to stop the train.
Name is Mr. Swartz. Is a name I'll always remember this.
Train operator Stamp's first 12-9 was a blind passenger who fell. Slamming on his brakes, Stamp went back to find him.
I was able to see the blood dripping from his foot. He had on brown pants, black shoes, brown pants, brown members only jacket.
3 years later, it happened again to train operator Stamp.
Lady's name is Miss Gladys Liu. I'll always remember. She was in a fetal position. White sandals, dungarees, and a white and blue floral shirt.
Incidents years apart, different boroughs. Train operators grapple with the same nightmares.
I was crying, I was screaming. He wasn't a jumper. For the next 2 months, I had nightmares about him. I had to relive it because I had to go to the union. I had to speak to the detectives. It was just so much.
It really did a job on me, to be quite honest, psychologically. I only claim I was all right, but I was not all right.
Each year, there are well over 100 12-9s. That's more than 2 incidents a week. Often they're suicides, which, as a general policy, we do not report on. The number of incidents this year is dramatically higher. 40 people have ended up on the tracks so far this year, which means there will be over 100 train operators experiencing what Trina and George have had to go through.
If that continues through the year, that's going to be 120, 130, which is a significant increase over previous years.
This is the dark side. Yes, I call it the dark side because this is the side that nobody knows. Nobody knows how a train operator feels because nobody ever asks other than yourself.
Train operators are given a few days off before returning to work, or with a pay cut, they can go on disability. Many, like George, came back to work, but to prepare himself mentally for his next 12-9, which could happen at any moment, he's shut down emotionally.
Don't get me wrong when I say not as a human being, because if you slip, I feel sorry for you. If you was pushed, I feel sorry for you. If you was a co-worker, I definitely feel sorry for you because you belong down there. But if you dropped your bag, your radio, and you jump down there to retrieve it, and you get killed, I don't feel sorry because I think that you should have known better. I have to be truthful.
In March, a woman jumped onto the number 6 train tracks to get her purse back. She was crushed to death.
The reason why I feel like this, because nobody helped me. So I have to rationalize this and try to get a sense out of it that it was your carelessness that caused it. It was not me. So I don't really look at it. I don't look at it as though I should cry. I'm not going to cry. No, I'm not going to cry. I feel bad for you, but I'm going to move on the same day. I just go.
How do you think you would be able to survive another incident if somebody threw themselves in front of your train?
I can't say how I would survive. I just could say I hope it never happens again, and I wouldn't wish that on anybody.
That was Arthur Chien reporting. It may surprise you to know there isn't much in the way of help offered by the MTA to the motormen and women who witnessed the 12-9. We'll have more on that tomorrow on the WPIX-11 News at 10 o'clock.
Last night, we brought you part one of our report on motormen who live with the pain of hitting and killing people who, for one reason or another, end up on the subway tracks. The MTA allows them to take a few days off, but is it doing enough to make sure they're mentally ready to get back to work? Arthur Chien has part two of his report.
How does one react to killing someone, even if they were just doing their job?
Well, I thought I was going to be arrested. Why? Number one, because it was a crime. The way I look at it, because I've never been involved in anybody's death before, the police was around.
More than 100 times this year, train operators will be plunged into what some call the dark side. Nightmares bring sleepless nights.
I was crying, I was screaming.
Trina Hayes was operating a train that killed a man in January 2009. She would not return for almost a year.
We're not trained to see that. Like police officers and EMS and doctors, they're trained to deal with that, you know, death and mangled bodies and cut up bodies, but we don't get that experience. We just have to see it as it happens, and that's bad because we don't know how to deal with it.
Train operator George Stamp has seen 2 people die underneath his train.
Emotionally, we hide it, especially men. I'm going to hide it. I'll talk about my 12-9, but I'm going to act like it's nothing. But deep down inside, I'm hurting. It hurts.
As shaken as train operators are after what they call a 12-9, the radio lingo for when this happens, by MTA New York City Transit rules, they're tested for drugs and alcohol, and that's it. It's the walk-it-off therapy plan. Train operator Stamp says transit workers with substance abuse problems get more help than train operators that end up killing people.
Drinking, drugs, we got a program for you. If they want me to learn about some kind of new procedure, they have a program for me. But there's no program for us that have 12-9s. Let me be clear on this. I do like this job. I love what I do. I've been doing it for 22 years.
While New York City Transit does not have a program for the hundreds of train operators each year that are unexpectedly intertwined with tragedy, their union does. Steve Downs is union chair for train ops, himself a motorman for nearly 30 years. He actually disagrees with Stamp.
If the Transit Authority were to offer this, that'd be a good thing. My concern is I don't want to see train operators who, in the opinion of the Transit Authority doctor, has psychological problems not being allowed to work. Too often the Transit Authority's medical department will hold people out of work for the smallest reason. And so I don't want to give them another reason to hold people out of work.
For Stamp, however, it is about having Transit Authority brass recognize how shattering 12-9s are for those who work for them, often the last ones to see the victim alive. While he's thankful the union reaches out, he points out in the end it is the Transit Authority for whom he works.
This is not the union, no, because I'm a member of the union, but I work for the New York City Transit Authority. They are the ones. I wear their uniform, it was their train, it was their tools on their tracks and their station where it happened at. The union just supports. The union doesn't initiate.
That was Arthur Chien reporting. The MTA has spent years reviewing this issue, but there's still plenty of disagreement between the authority and the union about what should be done in these situations.